Awesome.
Cool, cool. So, how are you, my friend? Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone had a great week. I know the markets brought a lot of volatility, as well as different aspects of people's personal lives with all of the transits that we had happening and with the cards that we discussed last week. So here we are once again on Sunday trying to have a discussion about what happened last week, what is going to ensue in the upcoming week, what to watch for. And I am your host, Dee. I'm here with Ty. And Ty, how's your week? How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Hey D, hey everybody. Yeah, definitely one of those weeks, especially in the markets. It feels like it's been 3 weeks. It was definitely wild, but it's something we talked about last week. It's like we had a wild one coming up. We kind of saw that coming, and so hopefully everyone had a chance to kind of be on their toes and think ahead and hopefully play some defensive maneuvers this week.
Correct, correct. Well, it is expected at the end of the month. Um, it is now, it was end of the month week with the monthly closing, which brings volatility on its own. Then you had February, the start of the month today. Um, it was just it was just a recipe for a lot of activity. So I'm not surprised to see what we're currently experiencing. Um, let's see, where do we want to start today? Do we just want to look at what we talked about last week and go from there?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I think last week, well, we talked to, well, one,
Maybe,
I'll let you kick off the Astro. Yeah.
yeah, okay. So last week we had a couple of different things we were exploring. One of them, well, three to be exact, but one of them was the Venus and Saturn conjunction. Um, we talked about how this is a very unique transit that can bring consolidation and restrictions to the market. Also, could bring a lot of heaviness, with Saturn being present. We talked about also the chart of the the World Economic Forum. And we talked about, let's see what else we talked about. And then we also talked about how that ties in once again with the fool's journey. And we talked about the sun entering Aquarius. We talked about how that is whether it was going to be a position of power or that was going to be a nail in the coffin. And um and then with that was like a couple of weeks back, but then when we brought up the Neptune, when we brought up the Neptune ingress, and we brought up the Mars conjuncting Pluto, that was like a recipe for disaster, right? Because you have, unfortunately, right, I mean, you have such a powerful force like Mars. It's the driving force behind a lot of things, but it's conjuncting Pluto, the Lord of the underworld, the Phoenix, where you have to burn first before you rise. So it was just an energy that was kind of bound to happen. Then you had the Mercury conjuncting Venus, which we talked about how it typically gives the markets a nice bottom and allows it to rise, but that we first were going to have to experience some volatility again to the downside because of this Mars and Pluto conjunction. And even though it peaked on January 29th, you have to count the orbs. And we talked about this being the orbs, that it means the area of influence of an astrological event. So it's not, you can't just look at the peaking date. You have to look at when the transit actually starts to take effect and is energy starts to manifest. So that it was around February 12th, if my calculations are correct. Let me look at my notes here. Yep. I'm sorry, January 12th. So it was starting to take effect around January 12th, and it peaked on January 29th. And then I calculated it to be winding towards the exiting point on February 12th. So we're still in that transit and we're still going to see its effect. And it usually the effects gets multiplied. So when it starts, when it peaks, and when it ends. So basically, just like we saw around January 12th, we had a volatility to the upside, then we peaked, then we dropped down, we swept those lows. We literally experience similarly, right now, on the 29th, we had come from a potential recovery, and then we lost the support, and now we're sweeping lows again. So so
Absolutely.
so it's like, that's exactly what we're gonna see around February 12th. Once again, we're gonna see a rise that week, potentially up to, the top of that week. And then again, we're gonna lose that support. Hopefully not too low. Hopefully we'll still be able to hold at least, the high 80s, but we need to rise in February above 77K, or 80. I have around 80, 81K, just to even maintain that kind of support again, moving in towards the end of the month. But let's see what happens. I'm getting ahead of myself. So you can talk about the cards and what you discussed, last week with me.
Yeah, sure. So last week, like Dee said, we went through in the cards we went through actually it was the high suits of the clubs. And the 29th, what Dee was talking about are like are absolute death bottom. It seemed like they're our head fake into oblivion. Basically, that was actually a Jack of Clubs day, and that's something, if you've joined us the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about the Jacks a lot and how they are two-sided, how it's like they are the creative genius and they are a court card, so they're very, very powerful. But the shadow side of the Jack is deceptiveness and two-facedness and being a liar. And so like that head fake that we saw on the 29th is perfectly characteristic of any Jack, but particularly the Jack of Clubs and the Jack of Spades. The blackjacks are the ones that are typically more deceptive. And then yeah, usually the reds are more exuberant, so to speak. I call those, they're like the Jack in the boxes. Um, I thought it was kind of interesting. You also pointed out February 12th. And so if you guys are following along, we actually we progressed through the weeks in order with the cards. And here I'll pull up at the very end here. Here's the cards that we have for like this week. And as you can see, we're progressing through the spades in order. And actually, February 12th is when we switch suit and we start with the King of Diamonds. So that would actually be a large pivot point,
Yes.
like you were marking out as well. And we'll get to this. I know this looks all really scary and stuff, but we'll get to this. Don't worry, don't worry. but
All those
but
spades.
yes,
Next week is
yeah,
not going to be pleasant.
yeah, totally. We have definitely an interesting week ahead of us. But not to say that we can't navigate it. I
Yeah.
think it's definitely gonna be one to be on your toes for sure.
Yeah, no,
You
that's
want
that's
to take a look at next week, D?
sure thing. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about next week.
Cool. So, if you want, I'll start with the cards if you want. Take a look at the cards and we can jump back to Astro. I know you were just talking about the astrology for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good. I mean, we don't have like a particular
Well,
but
let's talk about this. Let's talk
yeah.
about this. I was showing it anyway. So this is our cards that we have coming up for this week. So So, like I was saying before, progressing through the spades in order down. So that's kind of how the progression through the calendar works. It starts at the king usually, and then works its way down through the suit. And then every time we actually switch months, we'll actually switch to a different part of the suit. Like for example, in February, we then start with the Jack of Spades. So today is a Jack of Spades day and a Jack of Spades year. And then like in March, for example, we start with a nine. And but it kind of changes, but then we progress linearly through the deck. So for this week, we are looking at a 10 of spades for tomorrow, which is typically a really good card. This is success in work, health, career. This is the workaholic card. This is the card that cannot be stopped. You know what I mean? And so this is a card that I could see a good rebound for us tomorrow and
Yes,
probably
a
just a
hundred percent.
reaction. Yeah, a really good reaction to just all the fear over the weekend, really.
Yes,
And I could definitely see a good bounce for us tomorrow.
yes.
And now I'm sure everyone's looking at this one that I marked out. This is the big scary nine of spades. So the nine of spades is also known as the death card. Um, but the death card, if you guys are also familiar with like other concepts of death and other esoteric studies and things like that, death also equals rebirth. So it doesn't necessarily always mean it's like doom and gloom and it's a bad thing, but it does pave the way for a new beginning. And when we actually look at this exact same card, it's equivalent in the tarot. We have the Nine of Swords, and the Nine of Swords is like kind of like worry and despair, and definitely that bad side of the of Spades. But I will just say personally that like I've done a lot of personal readings for people, and I've had nine of spades in difficult positions like Saturn myself. And I can just say that it necessarily isn't always bad. It isn't always like a terrible, terrible thing, although that this is probably one of the most feared cards in the deck. So it's kind
It's
of a
distinguished
connotation. It's kind of
night.
like it's kind of like the death card in tarot. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, people definitely are not happy when I do a tarot reading and that card comes up. But
Yeah.
no, there's oh, I mean, like knowing about it and understanding it and knowing that it's coming is like the first, it's like half the battle, right? Like when it blindsides you, that's when it sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like that's when if you can't think ahead, and at least it's like you see these in your spread and you can start thinking ahead about like, okay, what might need correction in my life? Or like what could this possibly be? And it almost mentally prepares yourself for this so that even if it is an unexpected event, at least then you're like, oh, there's that nine of spades that I was waiting for. There it is. You know what I mean? Oh my, I don't know, I got a flat tire or something. You know what I mean? It's like, well, hopefully it's as mundane as that. But but yeah, I would definitely say Tuesday. It's a day that we should watch out for because this could be a pivot day
It
in
is.
any direction. This could be we get some devastating news or we get maybe some awesome news that then propels us for the rest of the week. But the general theme, seeing that we are going through all spades, is I see a tug of war from both ways because
Mhm.
if we're only in one suit all week, we're going to be leaning into the numerology of these cards to really try to draw, um, draw the
More meaning.
overall vibe. Yeah,
Yeah,
forming the idea for the day. So, I mean, the eight of spades is an extremely powerful card, and this is also a card of healing, which is like very interesting next to the death card because you have a card of healing. And then you also have this unexpected seven, this shock to the system, seven of spades. This is like the card of spiritual enlightenment. But when we're talking about the mundane, I would say another almost unexpected event. And six is the card of fate. This is the card of reap what you sow. This is the card of this. Whatever's coming to you is going to come to you. You know what I mean? So this can also be a good or bad based on your past actions. This is probably the most karmic card in the deck is the six of spades. The
that's really
five of
that's
spades too
really
is
interesting. I'm taking notes because I'm gonna comment on this when when we go
yeah.
over the astro.
Okay, yeah, awesome. Yeah, please do. And the five of spades, I like to call the death card's little brother,
Oh no.
because a lot of the times, actually, when you do, if you do like kind of, you can back test the cards like you do stocks or crypto or whatever. And I've found that actually, when you back test to actually try to pinpoint people's deaths, the five of spades comes up almost more often than the nine. And
That is
so I
so
call this because it's kind of like this is the exploration of life and death and work and wisdom and health. So it's like you kind of think about it. It's like it is almost like crossing the plane. It's like this could be a card of extreme spiritual enlightenment, just like the seven as well. But it's like it is that exploration which can kind of explore. You could explore right on over to the other side. You know what I mean? That could be that
true.
kind of exploration as well. And the four, I mean, this is foundational. This is home and family, and it's a lot like the four of hearts, where it's going to be a lot of inward focus and family focus. And when in spades, we're talking about like foundational career systems, kind of like a reformatting of the system. And so these two cards over the weekend, it kind of makes sense. Like we have a super turbulent week, and then we kind of reset ourselves on the weekend, and then go into we'll be going into spades, and then diamond, and then clubs for next week.
I love it. I will, towards the end of our time together, we'll go over the astrology of each of those days and what can be expected and how it beautifully aligns with your system. It's so synergy based, like how these systems intertwine and interplay with one another. What I am curious about is you had a really interesting slide for us today about the new chair. And
Yeah,
I would love to go over that because we are still early in our stream. And we also would like to give people a little bit of time to join us and find us because we are not always coming online at the same time on Sundays. So sometimes people might have to remember or see our post. And I want people to be able to really get the best part of these talks. So why don't we get right into the that slide and you can
yeah, sure.
tell us a little bit more about that. So I thought that was so interesting.
Absolutely. So there's a lot to break down here, but you guys probably heard the news. We have a new Fed chair. His name is Kevin Warsh. Um, if you guys have been following my posts, you guys have been seeing I've been pounding the table about Kevin for about like half a month now. I've been like, he's got the cards. This is the man. He's got the cards. And so now I'll break down my process. I'll show you guys how I came to that conclusion. But if you guys haven't seen it before, this spread right here is kind of the foundation of cardology. So everyone's assigned a birth card. Kevin, he's the eight of diamonds, the power of money. How fitting. Perfect.
Yeah, 100%.
Perfect for him. And this is his spread for age 55 because he's 55 years old. He'll turn 56 on April 13th. You can see the cards are in a little bit different position compared to this. This is the life spread. So this is kind of like the master spread for everybody. And this will delineate life paths for any card in the deck. But we can take these spreads and through a process called quadration, we can then create spreads for your year, your week, a 7 year period, a 26-year period, a lunar cycle of 28 days, a seasonal period of 91 days. We can do a lot of different spreads. And what I did for Kevin is I just went to his year. And so this is his yearly spread. And the eight of diamonds normally sits up here where the king of clubs is. But today he's excuse me, sorry, he's sitting in the king of clubs spot, and that's very important. So his card moves every time you do a quadration. Your card moves from one spot to another, and it actually moves 90 times until it ends up in the exact same spot it was. And that's why we have 90 spreads in cardology.
Mathematically, it's
Yep.
amazing, like to see the math behind it all, because people don't realize that astrology may be the art and the science of interpreting the astronomy of the sky, but in reality, it's all math. It's just putting language to a mathematical equation. And when you look at these spreads, it's all math. Like if we could be Neo right now and see through the matrix, we will see nothing but equations right now.
Exactly. And that's a way I like to explain the cards to people. It's not about the card at all. It's about this grid and your spot on the grid. We just
Correct.
use the card to delineate the
The
energy
meaning.
that
Hmm.
is in that spot on the grid. But it's like, yeah, it's nothing, there's nothing special about the, well, there is a lot that's special about the cards, but you know what I mean? It's just a piece of plastic. You know what I mean? But
Right.
it's
It's what it
represented.
stands for. Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. So anyway, because his card sits in the King of Clubs position, in it sits in his position in the life spread, he's actually going to take on the energy of the King of Clubs. And it's also in the Uranus position. So that kind of shows you that like he's going to find some sort of achievement this year that's going to be a place of leadership for sure, but also it's going to come out of the blue. It's going to come out of nowhere. And so, just like any announcement of almost any position like this, it's going to be just like an announcement, just randomly one day. And that's exactly how he got his career advancement. And what's even more interesting is as we go through the spread, we actually read it from right to left and go down, and we have a different planetary period for each card after his card in the spread. So if you follow my mouse, we start here on his card and we go to his Mercury period, and then his Venus, and then Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and then Pluto, and we'll loop back to the top. And there's actually four more cards up here that we're not going to worry about today because we're going to talk about this one right here, the 10 of Diamonds, which is known as the most blessed card because it sits right here in the middle, Jupiter, right in the middle. And that is known as the most blessed card. And that could mean any sort of achievement, any sort of thing that you have your eyes set on, you are going to get it. And when I compared Kevin's cards to the other people that were running, there was another Kevin, there was Kevin Hassett, and there was, I believe, I don't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head, but I compared everyone's yearly spreads. And by far, Kevin Warsh had the best cards because he was displacing the King of Clubs, and he also had this 10 of Diamonds here in Neptune, which also the 10 of Diamonds itself is displacing the Nine of Spades. And this is a great example of where the Nine of Spades isn't always bad. This is a monumental moment in his life, and that's how it's illustrated here. It's not always bad. It can be a very good thing, but it's definitely a very new moment for him. All of a sudden, everyone in the world knows who he is. So
That's
definitely
so
something big.
interesting that you're
And he
talking
also
about
has that
Neptune.
card of fate as well. So it's like he worked for this. He earned
Yeah,
it, and he got what was coming for him, which was a huge advancement in career.
that's so interesting that you talk about Neptune being, in this position right now, because Neptune is a very sensitive planet when it comes to the New York Stock Exchange and to the global financial markets in general. Its ruler, you have Neptune, right? Like in terms of you have in terms of the mythology, right? You have Neptune being the god of the sea, right? And the sea, right, is the ruler of current, right? Of water, of currency. Um, Similarly, right? You're looking at the house that Neptune rules, the 12th house, right? And you have the house of, I mean, the sign of Pisces, again, water, right? And it's all really, it's not just about the currency, it's not just about the money, it's not just about, it's also the intuitiveness and the subconscious that is all tied into how we project our energy onto these cards and the cards interplay back to us. So this is literally like a representation of his ability to now affect these different areas that he's going to be working in. So it's really interesting to see how that all plays out.
Especially when it's like we are considering that these cards are only showing up for him in this particular position in this year of his life. You know what I mean? It's not even like they're there all the time. It's like he is in this particular position with most of his spread in Neptune only here at 55 years old. You know what I mean? It's like it was fated to be this time right now at this moment. You know what I mean? If he actually exemplified on the energies in the correct way, but he had the wind in his sails for it to happen right now for those areas that you just outlined. And that's what's so fascinating about the system.
Yeah, and the fact that this all sort of happened while Neptune was being the ruler of the 12th house, being the ruler of Pisces, was in his house. So it was at its most powerful, expressive energy.
Amazing. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
That is so cool.
Did you want
Okay.
to get into your forecast for this week
Well,
with
I would
this?
like to first generalize a little bit about the month of February, because so, we have so much going. I mean, and I almost
Yeah.
like I say this every month, I know, but it's true. Like we do have a fairly legendary month. It's a short one, but it's a good one. Um, so it's almost so in February 2026, I would like to call it like a a month that rewrites cycles. We have many anniversaries of events that haven't happened for decades or centuries, right? We have this upcoming Saturn Neptune conjunction in 0 degrees Aries. It's the first point of the zodiac, and it hasn't occurred for like 2000 years. So so it's very significant in terms of the rebirth of, of humanity, and it's almost like ushering this new Aquarian age. So it's very significant, not just for us as individuals, but as a planet, um, as humanity as a whole. So really, really incredible things that are in the upcoming, era are starting in this month. So it's not an ordinary month, right? And it has some of the most significant astrological and generational changes that can affect us not just for the next decade, but for centuries to come. So then we also have another important um, event. We have the, solar eclipse in Aquarius coming up on the 17th. So it's not this week, but the following weeks. And that's going to be really important as well, as Saturn is also entering Aries. That on its own, not just the conjunction, but that on its own also brings some really significant importance on February 14th on Valentine's Day. So here is Saturn, right? The sun ruler of BTC, entering in Aries, the sign of um, strength, drive, initiative, on a ritualistic day of blood and red, which is February 14th. A lot of sacrifices happen
Oh
on
boy.
that. Yeah, so it's all really interesting, and it's all opening up the curtains of February are being pulled by the full moon today in Leo. And then we also have Uranus starting stationing direct this month. And you have Mercury also going in retrograde again, closing the curtains. So it's all gonna be very fun and very indicative of that fool's journey that we talk about every single week. But I can start by talking about this week with the full moon in Leo, the sign of self-expression and leadership. Again, like I said before in our pre-live chatter, it's, the sign of courage and creativity. So it tends to have a very positive tone. In the solar cycle, because the full moon is, you have the solar lunar cycle coming together in this full moon. So basically, you have this moon in opposition to the sun, which is how a full moon is developed. And so you have an opposition of the solar cycle, which tends to be the sun in Leo. It's very exalted, but the moon in Leo, not so much. So you have a positive and negative charge coming together in opposing polarity. So that's always why, or one of the reasons why the full moon is so powerful and why everyone kind of always says like that crazy things happen on a full moon, right? They have these opposing forces kind of clashing together. It's like the yin and the yang, right? The cold and the hot. um, so
The
so
two
but it,
faces of the Jack that we got
right,
today, right? You know?
exactly. And it's all, but it all culminates and it does illuminate things. It does bring clarity. So and we talk every week about the degrees as well. We don't get into too much detail, but I like to talk about the numerology of the degrees. And this is happening on 13 degrees, 3 minutes of Leo. And again, the 133, which adds up to seven, being culmination as well. So it's quite interesting. Now, this can set an emotional stage for the entire month. And as you can see, people are quite emotional about what's going on in the markets, right? So this Leo energy typically demands people to be authentic and self-expressive. And, you can see it in all the posts about, people, how they're feeling currently about the speculation that it's currently happening on both sides of, we're going literally from fear to extreme fear in the markets, and that's typically very indicative of this type of moon. But it's also happening obviously in the Leo Aquarius axis. And I find this super interesting because at 13 degrees, 3 minutes, if you actually plot the 1331 EMA on your chart, you'll see something super interesting. It's what I call my top and bottom EMA. And if you plug in, a friend of mine shared it with me about 2, 3 years ago, and I always keep it around. If you look at it, it's very indicative of the cycles of where we're gonna go. So just the fact that we have this lunation happening on 133, it's just literally missing the one, right? But
Amazing.
it
Yeah, that's
but if you plot it in and you see where it has been in the past around that EMA, you're going to see some really interesting data points. So I encourage people to go back and explore that. And then, like I said, it's happening on this axis, which is activated by the solar eclipse in Aquarius later this month. And that full moon, literally, it's going like the full moon illuminates what you're gonna see culminate and being disrupted by or flipped on its head by week 3 when we when we have that eclipse energy kicking in. So that's going to be super interesting. We also have, like I said, the Uranus coming direct at 27 degrees, 27 minutes of Taurus. Again, 27 being another key number. Again, with the 2 and the 7, bringing it to a 9, another culminating number. And it's the inverted of the 72, which is yet another number much related to Bitcoin and Saturn.
How many
Just
nines are we gonna get? That is insane. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it happens on February 4th. So I find it interesting that you talked about the volatility of the third, because when you're in a station direct, it is literally volatility to both sides. I call it the candle that burns on both sides. Um, so yeah, it's definitely full of energy, and because these transits don't happen in a vacuum, right? You have to look at its context and what's happening before, and we literally have this card of the nine of spades on the day before. And then we have, oh yeah, thank you.
Yep.
So we have the card of the nine of spades the day before. And then we have on Thursday the seven of spades. And you can remind people what these two cards mean surrounding this eighth card. I can pause and you can.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, once again, the nine card is the big scary death card, and this is the card of death and rebirth in work, health, or career. So when we're talking about personally, but then when we're talking about in the mundane or in the markets and stuff, this is going to be a completion point or a rebirth point, a pivot. You know what I mean? And then with the eight, that this is the card of healing and power through work and health and healing. So this could be like our chop around, find a bottom type day. Is like that's what I'm
Yes,
kind of seeing on the fourth.
it
And then
is.
the seventh, this could be the inspiration moment. This could be another deciding moment. Impulse move for sure. Like, hopefully I'm hoping up. I think we all are, but it's like impulse move definitely on the
Yes, it
seventh,
is. It
Yeah.
is. We also have Venus trining the ascendant for BTC's natal chart, so that's very positive. But with trines, most people don't understand that most people don't understand that even though it's a positive, I call it the bull trap sign, bull trap um transit, because it culminates on a high, but it quickly fades, especially depending on the planets involved, right? But it's definitely a pivot point, especially to the upside. So it's interesting how we see this Uranus stationing direct, right, as a potential bringing the market down on the third, and then potentially finding that recovery, right? So, but the third can go both sides. We have the beginning of Mars conjuncting the nodes for BTC natal chart, while we have Mercury trining the ascendant. So that's literally like what you said, both up and down, type of energy, which finds that direction on the fifth, because the fourth is still going to look a little bit difficult.
We're
With
healing.
yeah,
Yeah, we're healing. And
right.
yeah, that seven is like a lightning bolt. So it's a flash, you know what I mean? It's short-lived, like you said. And
Yes.
but the spade, um, it encompasses all three other suits. So it's like these are some of the most powerful cards in the deck all right next to each other. So this is an insane tug of war. You know what I mean? That's what this is. And I think that's what we're seeing in the sky as well, where it's like we have a lot of powerful energies, but also they're opposing each other. So it's this push and pull and this tug of war back and forth that's kind of going on right now.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And then of course we still have Mercury entering Pisces, and that happens on the 6th. And I think you had the was it the 6 of spades on that day?
On the sixth, yep, the
Yeah,
six of spades.
so
Yep.
that's interesting. So you have the six of spades on February 6th.
Yeah.
Um, so that's, and when you have Mercury entering Pisces, this again, like we said last week, is it's the planet of communication and commerce. Its ruler, I'm sorry, it rules Gemini, and Gemini being again, related to the third house of communication, commerce, the ruler of merchants, right? And it enters the intuitive waters of Pisces once again, which ruled by Neptune. And it's all like intuitive. It's like being able to finally be in touch with your mind and your intuition coming together. So people are going to have a much clearer sense of a more decisive sense when they see a move, when they have like more clarity about what will transpire in the upcoming week, meaning that it will give a lot more clarity at that point, for what we would understand the direction of where things are gonna go. Of course, it's gonna be after all this volatility,
Yeah,
um,
after. But yeah.
early in the week. But but it does make a lot of sense, and if you now know this information ahead of time, you can plan ahead for that, right? Um, and of course, it's going back uh retrograde towards the end of the month. So around the 26th, and of course, the shadow period comes before then, but we're gonna have another pivot towards the end of the month as well. Um,
Yeah, I could see another pivot towards the end of the month too, because if we're looking here, we see here's February, and then the 12th that you talked about, we flip over into diamonds, and then
mhm.
towards the end of the month, we flip to the King of Clubs, very powerful card. We actually just had that card last week as well. Um, but yeah, very powerful card. And whenever we switch suits, that's kind of like when we, transit into a new sign or something like that.
Correct.
It's like it can be very powerful. So yeah,
Correct.
it's like these days, like the 11th, 12th, like that's huge because we
Yeah.
have like the Ace of Spades, which is like new beginnings, and then the King of Diamonds, which is money, 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 baby. So it's like this is this
Yeah,
is a
that's a
crazy, yeah,
that that
yeah,
that transition right there is a pivot to the upside.
yeah,
So
for
yeah.
sure, yeah.
Well, the interesting thing is if you hold that right there, so the 10th, right, it's like the ninth and the 10th is gonna be topish energy, which makes sense because we're changing suits. And then as soon as like the two of spades is that, final like top energy that now
Mhm.
is transitioning into the bottom forming the 11th and the 12th. So that's super interesting. Like I can't make this stuff out.
Yeah, it is wild how it lines up almost exactly with a lot, but it is also based on astrology. So it's like that's how these grids and stuff. This is how it was formed.
Right.
And it's why these cards have their certain positions, which is, they were meant to be laid on top of each other. So it's beautiful that we have multiple systems that we can illustrate these things in multiple different ways for people. Um, because yeah, maybe one makes more sense to someone, maybe one makes more sense to another, or maybe a combination of both makes sense the most, which I know it does for me as well. It's like taking multiple forms of these systems and
Yeah.
laying them on top of each other. That's where you get the magic.
It's like being bilingual
Absolutely,
or
yeah.
trilingual in our case.
Trilingual, yeah.
Yeah, no, but just to wrap up the astrology for the week, like in all honesty, the full moon today, I mean, for most people just understand it as obviously like the full moon. But what they don't might not know is that the lunar solar cycle, it's not just from full moon to new moon. That's actually half of the cycle. The cycles are defined as, well, one part of the definition of a cycle is that it ends and starts in the same place. So, You cannot have a complete cycle by looking at the moon from just a full moon to the new moon. It's actually full moon to full moon. And so the energy that we are going to be seeing now with this full moon tends to be bullish, yes, but it fades quickly and it looks for retest around the next quarter moon on the 9th. So if you go back to like the cards layout that you have for the month, it really does make sense of why we're going to see, from the 1st to the 9th again, that completion number, going back to numerology, and then the three of spades. That's like a really important card as well. And you
Absolutely.
talked
Yeah,
about
because
this
that's
before.
yeah, that's the exploration of values. So it's like this can be super scattered energy, but this is also a wickedly creative card. This is like an artist card, you know what I mean? This is a writer. This is someone who they if they can channel their energy into one direction, they're unstoppable, but they're prone to be very, very scattered. So like in the markets, this could be something very, yeah, like you said, very top energy, because what you're going to see is a lot of scattered, like basically top buying, people buying the very
Yeah,
top candle, and it very scattered across the market. All the heavy hitters have sold, you know what I mean? And it's like it's just retail buying the very top fairy dust
yeah,
before we switch signs into the,
right.
yeah, two of spades, ace of spades.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so that's pretty much what I wanted to share today because I mean I could talk about this for days and and it just spills into next week. So
Absolutely.
I don't want to give away, of the interesting things that are happening next week. But next week is it's gonna be just as eventful with, Venus now following Mercury into into Pisces, and that's going to be super powerful as well. And then Mercury conjuncting the nodes, so just really succession of events that are happening in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it's always fun to catch up with you.
Yeah, likewise. No, it's always really good. I mean, it blows my mind every week when we do this and we find new ways that these systems lay on top of one another and show off like so much of what's going on. Oh yeah, I didn't talk about the cards for the week, but that's okay.
Oh, we got time.
Okay, we got time. We got time. Yeah, we'll talk about cards for the week quick. Um yeah, weekly card. So weekly card is the six of hearts. So all the sixes, like we were talking about before as well, six of spades. This is yeah, the card of fate and then culmination, and it can be like a carrying number because it's a six, but this is also a card of communication and channeling, which is something that is illustrated in the pips here, because there's a reason why the pips are laid out in um two parallel columns, is because this is making a road. It makes the road forward. Like this is, I like to think of the six as almost like it's the foundation. It's the building in which the foundational four is built upon, you know what I mean, where it's like now it's like the four was built, so now the six can add to that structure and create a channel for everyone forward. So that's kind of what the six is doing. It's like it's propelling us forward. It's forward energy, and I think that's a great thing to remind ourselves as we're going through this tug of war and these heavy cards here today and this heavy astrology this coming week, is like this is all part of the path forward, and
Yeah,
this is all, and this is how we then pivot and how we move forward as a collective.
yes.
um
And not to
we
lose
also have, yeah, go ahead.
and not to lose faith.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Yeah, absolutely. The six. So it's what's so funny is the six of hearts. When I first started looking at the cards, was like one of the most confusing cards to me, because it's like such like on its face, it seems like it would be such a family like orientated card, because it's like it's a six hearts, things like that. And you're like, oh wow, this is like a super supportive, loving influence. But interestingly enough, a lot of natives to this card it's very easy for them to let their emotions get the better of them. And these are actually some of the people, some of the angriest people I have
That's
ever met
interesting.
have been Six of Hearts, because they have tempers, because they have so much of this channeling of emotions that if it goes unchecked, it can go south really quickly. And I found that very interesting. This card confused the hell out of me for a long time, but then I finally got it. Yeah. Um, the weekly soul card of the Six of Hearts is actually the Three of Diamonds. So that's also very interesting, because lots of money moving around this week. And that's going to be, obviously, as we're playing this tug of war back and forth, exploration of values and money, very obvious for next week. As well as the Two of Diamonds, because as we're exploring with those values, we're also exchanging values and new partnerships, and like just a very money focused, but
Yeah.
also emotionally heavy week that we're going into. And we also have another six as well, which is the Six of Clubs, is actually my own soul card, but this is the card of the messenger. And so it's like I could see a lot of news this week, and especially it being in clubs, because this is a card of information and channeling. This is like a super Mercury card, This
That's
is
really
this
interesting because
and
we
so
just
yeah,
talked about Mercury entering Pisces
yep,
and Mercury
absolutely.
being the communications and, entering like intuitive Pisces.
Yeah, and so with the intuition of Pisces and the speed of Mercury, that's exactly what the Six of Clubs is all about. This is a spiritual card, but it's also, yeah, a card of information and just like truth telling. This is like the truth teller card.
Yes, the truth telling. That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, that's kind of like what Mercury in Pisces also represents. It's a truth teller, like the one that steps up to the plate and starts to spread, the news. The carrier, the messenger, like you said.
Yep, absolutely. I love this card. I'm a little biased, but I do love this card.
I love it. But before you move on, the three of diamonds, isn't that representative of the three of coins
Yes.
in
Yep,
tarot?
that'd be
Okay.
the yep, Three of Pentacles, Three of Coins. Yeah.
Okay. And then
So it can be a positive thing because
yeah.
of like the exploratory nature, but it can also be, as I'm trying to remember the art of the Three of Pentacles off the top of my head, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive thing. This can also be a card of loss.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. It can
Mm.
also represent laws. And I find it super interesting that it's in a line there with the two of pentacles, because the two of pentacles or the two of coins is kind of like the quote unquote toss up, is the exchange of value from one hand to the other. So literally like the markets right now, it's changing hands from, the price at discount and potential move to the upside. And the three of pentacles, it's like the building together. And so as the week progresses, we're building on something that wasn't clear at the beginning of the week.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting an interesting analysis too when you tie it back to the two of diamonds, because of the material nature of the two, in which it is that structure in which the three builds upon. And what's interesting about the two of diamonds, or the, two of pentacles or whatever, is some people will actually call this card the devil card, but not like the devil card in like the tarot, but in a
Right.
way of like the world, the mundane. Like this
Mhm.
is the chains to the material world. And that's one interpretation of the two of diamonds, where it's like it's almost like we're hyper focused on the material this week.
That
And
is
that
so
makes
funny
it
because
makes sense with all the turmoil going on. Yeah, we are focused on it.
the art of the two of pentacles is literally a jester or a person um like balancing or juggling is the word, juggling two coins, two really large coins, and his focus is like hyper focus on not dropping one of the coins.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing it right now. He's got it in his like rope, his like infinity ropes, basically. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So
that's
then
awesome.
you have the infinity symbol, you have the, you have the two coins, you have the hyper focus, you have the balancing act, you have the transfer of funds.
The
Um,
choppy seas.
yeah, the chopping seats, right. And it's a monthly card, so that energy is going to follow us for the entire month.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be thinking of this guy's hat all month. I'm gonna be like, God, he's got a great hat. If you guys don't aren't looking at the Two of Pentacles right now, I highly recommend
Yeah, just
it.
look it up. Look up these
Yeah.
cards also in their tarot form because it's gonna enlighten you in terms of what this all represents. But that's fabulous. I love.
Yeah, so
I always have so much fun with you in these talks because it's just like I learn so much every day. Like, cardology is not my, it's not one of my strong suits, but pun intended. But like there's a little dry Capricorn humor for you. But like I just find it so fascinating every time. It doesn't disappoint.
Absolutely. And hey, I have so much fun here every week as well because I also learn so much because, it's like I have a foundational understanding of astrology, but definitely nowhere to the extent that you do. So I learn so much as well. And I'm, yeah, so happy to be able to share this with everybody. You know what I mean? And, because I feel like this is a system a lot of people don't really know about, and it's wicked awesome. It's super fast. And it's fascinating how it just overlays on top of numerology, astrology, tarot, the human design system, even the periodic table, which is like super
I
crazy.
know.
But
That
yeah,
is so cool.
yeah,
Yeah, science and math for the win.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Ty. This is always enlightening and fun, and I'm always so happy. It's like no matter how my week goes, I always look forward to Sunday nights with you and the platonic way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm always looking forward to it. Looking forward to doing it next week, and yeah, hope to see everybody there.
Yeah, that sounds fun. I will see you, and we'll try to finalize like an actual like reoccurring time so that people know when to expect us. It's just a little hard because we're just kind of having fun with these and we don't know where this is gonna go long term. But if people are enjoying what we're doing and what we're sharing, make sure to obviously follow us and like and repost our streams. Additionally, for people who are watching this but need the subtitles in their own language, I also am posting the streams on YouTube and you can watch it there as well. But yeah, we'll see you next week and we'll post a time for next week and maybe in the future we can find one time that accommodates us every week and then everyone can know when we're coming on every single Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone has a time, we're open to recommendations. We're trying to make something work for everybody. So yeah, just toss suggestions our way, or if there's something you want to hear us talk about. Do you want to, or hey, do you want me to read your cards? You want to look at your chart, your birth chart, something like that here on our episode? Hit us up. Let's figure something out. We're open. We're just having fun. We're chilling. So let's do it.
Exactly. Exactly. Love it. All right. Well, thanks so much, Sai. Thank you everyone for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your week and stay goated.
See you guys.